How should we think about risk when we talk about software development? Stick around and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. But first, good evening, Agile acquisition enthusiasts. Welcome back to the Underground Digital Tiki Bar. It's Friday night, and that means it's time for another episode of Agile Acquisitions and Alcohol. So cheers. All right. On tonight's episode, we're going to take a look at risk as it relates to software delivery. Thank you, Brian Kroger. I appreciate you submitting the comments and the thoughts and really raising the question, what do we mean when we talk about risk? As we move into sort of more innovative, agile, iterative development and modern software solutions, we need to really consider what we think about risk, the risk management framework, as we often will describe it. I will often say innovation is, accepting that everything can be done better or what we're doing is wrong, however you want to do it. Having a deep understanding of the rules, regulations, and statutes that surround whatever it is you're trying to do, and then taking responsible risks. And there we go. That's that third one, that responsible risk. So, we think because we've always done something a certain way that that's the safer way, right? And that anything new or different injects risk, and we sort of applaud, as Brian pointed out, we kind of applaud these like risk takers, these Kessel Runs and these other organizations that have taken risks to do something different. But when we really unpack what it is they're doing, they're actually reducing the risk, right? What we know, the way we've always done it, it's extremely risky. We spend a lot of money, we spend a lot of time, we often don't get anything successfully deployed, and if we do, it's not a value to the user today. It may have represented a value to a user 4 or 5 years ago when the whole concept first came up of this being a requirement. That's assuming some amount of user research was done, which is not always the case. But regardless, even if it was, 5 years later in technology is an eternity, and most likely what we're delivering is not meeting their needs. So that's risky, right? And there's also risk in the sense of security. We assume that networks are air-gapped and protected, and they're less risk associated with that. But that's not the case either, right? Moving to this more zero trust network framework is less risky, but it's different. And so it doesn't fit into the normal matrices that we use when we try to manage risk through a framework, risk management framework again. But from purely a software delivery standpoint, when we think about delivering risk or reducing risk, we think about how can we continue to deliver, how can we deliver quickly and respond. So the idea of failing fast, the idea of getting something out to the user and then assessing whether or not it meets the user's needs and in what ways it needs to be modified or prioritized additional features to continue to deliver value. That's a great reduction in risk because you're delivering the most important things first, and you're getting it out there and you're fielding it, and then you're getting feedback into that loop of development of what should come next. That's great. You're also reducing risk because by shrinking the size of the acquisition timeline, so the selection, award, execution timeline, and reducing the timeline to delivery, meaning we're not waiting 3-5 years, etc., to get delivery to first find out if what we're delivering meets our needs. We're greatly reducing risk, and we're also reducing the tendency to throw good money after bad because we've invested $100 million into a solution. Now we've decided it's not working, but rather than throwing the whole thing out, we just continue to fund it in the hopes that we'll get it to a point of acceptable, which is unacceptable. Really what we need to do is say, okay, we're going to accept the risk that we're going to make a decision quickly based on past experience and capabilities and a repeatable process delivered functional code, and we're going to assess it, and if it's not working, we're going to stop paying for it, right? We're going to move to a new vendor. And because all of the process around bringing a new vendor in is easier quicker. There's less risk there, and hopefully we're using development in the open, and the government has access to the code repositories and the executable files. And so if we had to run another competition, there's a couple options. We could just make that available as part of the competition, or if we didn't want to do that, then at least when the new vendor comes in, we're not getting like a notebook of unusable code that's been created over 10 years and only makes sense to the incumbent. So there you have it. Brian, I hope that answers your question. I'm sure you'll let me know if it doesn't. We can continue this dialogue and maybe add on additional videos to the series if there's other thoughts that you think or others out there think should be brought into this discussion. So happy to keep it going. And everyone, if you're out there, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you're enjoying these videos. I'll keep making them if you keep watching them. And, until next week, cheers.